So without further ado, let me introduce Greg Swanson. Greg has, it's Greg. Greg lives out in Portland, Oregon. He is the founder and chief business development officer for ITZonTarget. Before that, Greg had a very lengthy career directly inside the publishing industry, leading many companies, revenue efforts, especially in the new media space. And currently what ITZonTarget does is work with publishers to implement revenue ideas, as well as private clients. So he has a really good handle on what's going on and what publications are doing online or traditional news, print publications with online operations. Some different ideas that people are doing that are successful. And we wanted to focus on ideas that, any size organization could do. So without further ado, Greg, why don't you lead us off?
Sounds great. I have with me today, by the way, this is Cameron Herron. Cameron works with ITZonTarget. So just in the interest of honesty, I should tell you that we work with about 75 newspapers, a number of a couple TV stations, a couple radio stations, a number of small agencies, and we're their back-end fulfillment group, or rather we help them fulfill their digital campaigns. So what you're going to hear today is really a simple idea. Not one of these ideas is mine. I have stolen these ideas from our partners. These are just really good ideas that work. I'm just sharing them because they're sort of best of breed, and they're and also it's been a surprising year. People have done some really interesting things. And I chose these three in particular because I wanted to be sure that all of you had access to some of the thinking that's going on in particular regarding, for instance, what Google is doing to compete with Amazon and the impact that'll have on local e-commerce. I want to talk about email because it's doing so well for so many people. And I also want to talk about an idea that I just flat out stole from the Santa Fe New Mexican. So, it's their idea, it's not my idea, but they had a really clever way to deal with serving nonprofits and delivering their audience to nonprofit groups. And I think all of these ideas are things you can use. I hope you'll be able to use them easily. So without further ado, let me share my screen. And if you don't mind, during the course of this conversation, I think I'm going to ask Cameron also to chime in. Let's do this. Well, actually, let me do this. So just for now, tell me if you can see my screen, and let me get this to, can you guys see my PowerPoint?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So today, again, we're going to talk about three ideas, and my favorite one of these is, here they are. We're going to talk about e-commerce. I don't know how many of you noticed this, but there was a pretty amazing stat that came out on Black Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and it was reinforced on Cyber Monday. And the stat was this: on Black Friday, it was the second largest day in history for e-commerce transactions, the total amount spent on e-commerce. It makes sense, of course. Here we are in the middle of COVID and all that stuff. But the most startling part of that was that it was $9.3 billion. People spent $9.3 billion online shopping on e-commerce sites on that Friday. Out of the 9.3 billion, 2.3 billion were spent on Shopify. And that number doesn't include a number that was spent on WooCommerce. The previous year, WooCommerce was bigger than Shopify. I don't have the WooCommerce numbers from Thanksgiving. I just haven't looked them up yet. But if it's something like Shopify, think of what that's saying. Out of all the money spent on e-commerce on Black Friday, a quarter of it was spent on Shopify, which is not Amazon, it's not eBay, it's not Target, it's not Shopify. Those are small local sites. So about 25% of all e-commerce money was spent in our markets with our customers. That's really interesting. I mean, it means that the battle's not lost for local businesses who want to participate in e-commerce. On Cyber Monday, the number was 9.7. It was the largest online sales in the history of mankind. 9.7 billion spent on that Monday, 2 days after the second largest. And out of that, it was 2.7 billion were spent on Shopify stores. In other words, local e-commerce. So I think this is a year when we should be talking to our local customers about what their e-commerce strategy should be. But I also want to take a peek ahead at what the competition is going to look like, because it's going to be fierce. But e-commerce, the second idea is email, and the third idea is the e-auditorium. It's a concept, again, I've stolen completely from the Santa Fe New Mexican, but they've done a really interesting job with this, and I can't wait to show it to you. First, I don't know if you guys ever look at the INMA publications, but in October, they had a really wonderful piece. It was actually, they were quoting the CEO of Schibsted, a large European newspaper company. The CEO, Kristen Lund, said, "It's the movie that draws the crowd, but the money's in the popcorn." And what she was about to say next made sense, which is news media's popcorn might be e-commerce. And I think she's right. I'm sure you guys have all seen this. The New York Times has launched their own site called Wirecutter. It's a 9-year-old now. I mean, it's not just, it's 9 years old, but now this site Wirecutter, basically what they do is review products and let you buy them. And you buy them directly from the customer, from whoever manufactured or is selling the product. But the New York Times gets a fee for sending that lead. They make more money from that affiliate commission than they make from traditional advertising. This is an interesting model that lots of people are using. And in particular, some of the European publishers, they're actually partnering with e-commerce platforms and selling products, and they're making money in an affiliate model. But I want to talk about something even simpler. I want to talk about a big business called Bimart. Bimart is it's a business in the western part of the United States. These are the Bimart stores just in Oregon and Washington. They have lots of stores in the West. They're a big business, and they're not online. And they think, well, why do we want to be online? We want to drive people to our stores. We want traffic in our stores. That's our whole business model. And I understand that that's a good idea for them, kind of. Just so you'll understand who they are, Bimart, in essence, is like a tiny Kmart meets a farm store. They sell clothing, they sell food, they sell food for pets, they sell, it's like, but think of them as kind of like a tiny Kmart. Okay, here are their ads. Here's a banner ad. Let's roll. This looks like they're selling some outdoor product. Are they? Yeah, they are. Here's another one. Let's take this outside. Now they're advertising a grill. If you click on these ads, what happens? It takes you to this page where you can look up a store location to go buy that product. How many of you think that these ads lead to a lot of great conversions? And let me just say, here's how this is Celebrate Mom's Day for Bimart. If you click on this, it takes you to the same page. And what I'm trying to say here is this is not much of an e-commerce experience. They have lots of stores they can drive you to, and that's great. But they also have a really big problem in their very near-term future, and I want to show it to you right now. And it's this. Can you guys see my, oh shoot. So I get that back. Their big problem is that if I want to buy that wheelbarrow we just saw, and I type in, can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
And you can see my browser?
Yep.
Okay. Let's say I type in wheelbarrow. I'm sure you guys have all seen this, but if I type in wheelbarrow now on my Google search, I'm going to get a carousel of wheelbarrows. But what people have not appreciated is what Google's actually up to here. Not only are they showing you these wheelbarrows, but if I click on shopping, look at my choices. I can click on available nearby, and Google will show me all the wheelbarrows for sale near me. Nice. But they also do something else. Google is trying to compete with Amazon. So you can buy this on Google. Now, wait a second, buy on Google? I can now buy, and look who I'm buying it from. They don't even, it doesn't matter. Google doesn't care. If you have uploaded something to this product called Google Actions, Google can actually sell your product for you. So I'm going to compare. So let's say I want to buy this one. If I buy this one, I can add it to my cart on Google. Google is now a multi-vendor store where I can buy products from all kinds of businesses, put them in my cart, and here's how it works. You get Google reviews, you get all kinds of great stuff from Google on all these products. And here's the point. It's really cool. Let's look at who they're from. Well, Google doesn't really tell you who they're from here. Let's go back to even nearby. For you to be available nearby, to be on this list, you have to upload your product to the Google Merchant Center. To be on buy on Google, you have to upload it to Google Actions. But Google's plan is this. Imagine how they get to compete now with Amazon, and they don't have to, unlike Amazon, they don't have to build a warehouse. Because the way Google works is this. Google says, okay, you want to buy on Google, you can visit, they're going to sell it from, hold on, yeah. Compare prices from 5 stores. Google, if you pick one of these stores and you order it, Google sends an order to the business, but then they don't pay them until that store goes into the back end of the Google Actions platform and enters the shipping code from FedEx or whoever it is they've shipped it from. And after they've proven that they have shipped me the product, then Google pays them. So Google now has a warehouse-less multi-vendor store, and they're going after every product on earth. So let's say you have a local customer. Let me say, by the way, let's look at the stores who are here. So not just buy on Google, but let's just look at, I don't know, near me. Well, period. Here are the companies: Works, Tool Lots, Ace Hardware, Global Industrial, Zorro, Lowe's. What do these all have in common? They're all big stores that have a relationship with Google. Where's my local nursery? They're not here. Why aren't they here? Because they haven't uploaded their content to the Google Merchant Center. They haven't uploaded their content to the Google Store, to the Google Actions. They're not playing in the Google ecosphere, which means this. Your local businesses, 9 times out of 10, when there's a search for wheelbarrows and this comes up, this carousel comes up, your local merchants are not there. We have a tool, which I'd be happy to share with any of you after this call, that automatically takes any product in a Shopify store and uploads it to the Google Merchant Center and uploads it to Google Actions and uploads it to Facebook Marketplace. This is a really big deal. It means that you can say to a local customer, let us build your Shopify store and we can upload it to, and we'll take care of sending it to Facebook, to Google, to all the other places where your product can be discovered. And when they click on it, they'll still be ordering from your store. You do the shipping, you own the customer, but people can discover your products in many more. So the idea here is don't have your store be a destination that people have to visit. Have it be a broadcast center that's sending your products all over the web where those products can be discovered. So the next coolest thing about this is not that. It's this. What if you built a store for your customers? What if you built a store for your customers like these 2 companies? I'm going to just show you these now. I had a lot of these saved and I'm going to have to come back and I inadvertently closed my browser. I had a lot of these saved on them for you. Let me just show you this. Here's Garden and Gun magazine. Garden and Gun. If you guys don't steal from anyone else, I invite you to steal from this publication as much as you can. Garden and Gun figured out something really, really, really important, and that is that you can get money from your readers, your audience, and that reader revenue is not as simple as subscription revenue. Subscription revenue is just one form of revenue. What about the other forms you can get? So if you look at Garden and Gun, this line is their content line. Here's the content: food and drink, home and garden, arts and culture, travel, music, cool. But this line is their revenue line. And what's on it? Not ads. I mean, they certainly sell ads. It's shop our store. It's visit our restaurant. It's read our books. It's get our newsletter. It's find property. It's attend our events. Garden and Gun has built a culture around this magazine. The magazine sort of evokes the the Southern culture. And so let's look at the attend our events. What kind of events? We can go. They don't have a lot of events that are upcoming. You can go on fishing trips. Here's women in the field, ladies fly fishing excursion. You can, where do they go fishing? Bermuda, South Africa, all over the world. They sponsor events in restaurants. The point, I'm not saying we should do that. I'm saying that these guys have figured out that people want to share in the culture of this magazine. And so another way to do this would be, as they do in Charleston, South Carolina, sponsor farm to table events where the newspaper brings chefs in the local community and rents a space, invites people, gets $100, and a food critic sponsored by the paper is there. I will tell you that for the Post and Courier in Charleston, South Carolina, they do an event every Friday, and it costs about $100 to come and sit with the restaurateur. You're also talking to the food critic of the Post and Courier, and while you're there, you can buy cookbooks sold by the Post and Courier. You can buy aprons. You can buy. Their idea is, let's get reader revenue by selling them stuff. What if you could take all the readers in your market that currently subscribe and get $10 more a year because you sold them a mug, sold them a shirt, sold them a cookbook, sold them a ticket, sold them something. But the other thing they realized is something really, really valuable. Shop our store. Why did they do this? In every single market, every market that's on this call, we have local makers, local manufacturers who are making stuff. And most of them have, and sometimes it's jewelry, sometimes it's fabric, sometimes it's furniture, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's, it's pasta. I mean, it's salsas, whatever it is. If they're having trouble selling, you should go to them and say, look, I know you've got a little tiny online store and you're having trouble getting to it. We have a zillion people who visit our newspaper. What if we had a store called Our Town Store? Made in our town, or made in my state. Or like this, the Garden and Gun, they call this the field shop. The field shop. Here's what they realized about the field shop. Let's look at this barware. What's really amazing about this barware is they sell, I get this to load. They sell glassware that includes, well, here you go. Here's a little tiny shot glass, a bourbon glass. It's $40. A $40 bourbon glass? Let me just say that on Amazon, this is not the standard price. And that's precisely the problem. The problem that small merchants have is Amazon's all about cheap. If you have a hand-etched glass that's worth $40 and you go to Amazon and all the other glasses are $2 or $1.50 or $4, how do you sell one for $40? Amazon is not a good context for commerce for many handcrafted products. And if you have people in your market or your state who sell handcrafted products, they need to have a new context to sell that in. It could be what we say out here, made in Oregon, made in Portland, made in, and and then build a store. And here's the pitch. If you're the local newspaper, what if you built a store, and if they put a product in your store, you're automatically going to upfeed this to the Google Merchant Center, to the Google Action Center, and to Facebook? Well, that's now suddenly, you're really helping them market their products.
Greg, do you want to take a pause here and see if there's any questions? Just I'm trying to keep us on track with the 3.
Yes, I would. This is the longest one, but
All right.
yes, we can take a pause here. And also, Cameron, do you have anything you want to add about this too? All right, or rather, Cameron's here too. Go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't have anything else to add on this one, but
okay.
It's been very effective for a number of our media partners, and we've helped them, build those stores on their sites and connect them with the customers locally.
The thing we want to recommend is you can build stores, you can build a community store, and then the store can be on your site. If you have a home and garden section, take those products and sell as part of a package, put those in your store. If you have a food section, if you have an outdoor recreation section, sell outdoor recreation stuff, put them in your store. So build a community store, build stores for your customers, broadcast products across the web from any store you either build for the customer or that's your own store, sell marketing for stores, and then also, of course, offered sponsored content. Come back to that. But you can run an email that sells these products too.
So
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions at this point? You can unmute yourself, type them in the chat. One thing, Greg, I thought maybe you could explain, because if people don't know it, it's actually an important tip. If you don't know about the incognito mode of Google, which is where Greg was, that's if you start doing these searches in your local market, you have to be in that mode or you're not going to pull correct results. So
It's true. Any other thoughts or questions about this? What do you think, Mike? Dumb idea? Okay idea?
I like it. I just wonder how much updating it constantly needs and service when something sells from the online portal. Does the customer update the inventory and stuff, or would that be up to the newspaper?
It's up to the customer.
Okay,
And
so they have the ability to do that.
And the fulfillment has to be the customers too. We don't want to be in the fulfillment business. Just like Google, we want to just connect to their store and have them sell.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
them ship.
Yeah. So each customer would need to have their own website. We're directing them to buy these products.
If they don't have their own website, they have to be willing to be in the fulfillment business, or we don't want them to play.
Okay.
I mean, we don't want to ship for sure.
No, definitely. Okay, sounds good.
But I will tell you, this has been pretty popular in the home and garden category, where most of our furniture stores already have sites. They're already doing shipping. I mean, they're relatively sophisticated marketers, and they just want another way to market their stuff. And we can market it and put it in a context where it makes sense, looks good, and is connected to editorial content, and they like that.
So I see this, Mike, as something you would either decide that a store attached to your main brand, as he showed, in the Gun and Garden scenario. And then once you sell the package, to the local merchants or the local artisans, they're responsible basically for everything from there. So I think there would be some initial setup, obviously. But then once it was running, people would be maintaining it themselves. And I think the overriding benefit here, which he stressed, is that you would be doing all of that work of sending it up to be found on Google, which is a really powerful thing.
Just selling that is an interesting thing. And if you say basically, if you're in our store, we automatically send you to Google, that's a big deal for them. There was a time, until just recently, Google billed you for being in their store. There was a transaction fee, but they've now decided this is their strategy for going after Amazon. And so now there's no fee. So you know, one thing that they're doing with a store in at the Flathead Beacon is they're actually saying, well, now look, if we go directly to a manufacturer, the manufacturer normally sells through a retailer. The retailer is marking it up 100%. If they sell in our store and we take a 15% or a 20% cut of the product, we're like the best retailer that they deal with, you know. So if you can find those kinds of customers, it's a really sweet deal. You have a percentage of the sale. You don't have to bill them to have them in your store. It doesn't cost much to put them in a store, and yet you make 15% on every sale. So now if you're selling furniture and all that stuff and the product's $900, that's an interesting sport. I'm going to try one more thing here. Okay.
Greg, is that how you make money off this, is by taking a percentage of the sales in the store?
That would be my recommendation. I mean, I can just tell you that the model they're doing right now in Montana is this. They have a magazine. It's called Flathead Living. It's just what you'd imagine, a home and garden kind of magazine. And if you buy an ad in the magazine, you get 10 items in the store for free. But they take 15% of everything that you sell. So they put it in the store at no cost. They maintain it each month at no cost, but they take a percentage of everything sold out of it. So it's kind of it's sort of a really low risk thing for the merchant, right? It doesn't cost anything until it works. And I suggest if they buy an annual contract, they get 50 products. If they buy a 6-month product, they get 25. If they buy a 3-month contract, they get, I don't know, 5. If they, you know, in other words, link it to print or link it to a contract, link it to a relationship.
So I would say move on to the next one, and then we can circle back around. If anyone has any other questions about that, why don't you write it in the chat? So we'll try to address everything at the end that we don't catch in this segment.
A fierce whip hand here, Terry. All right, here we go. Okay. This next one's a little different, and the world has changed pretty dramatically over the last little bit, the last couple of years, in terms of what you can do with email and what's available on email. And I know you all know this, but let me just repeat this. There are all kinds of people who will sell you lists where you can buy lists. And when I say there are all kinds, what I mean is there are really lousy vendors and there are really good vendors, and the difference between them is pretty dramatic. But at the high end, at the quality end, email vendors have now figured out, have connected postal addresses to email addresses for about 240 million Americans. That means that you can buy an email list targeting people with all the data that you used to be able to target people in their homes. In other words, everything that was available to a direct marketing person sending postcards, you can now do with email. And in addition, for about 160 million out of that 240 million, we've tied not only the physical address to the email, but the physical address to an IP address, which means you can target people with an email based on their browsing history. So someone could be looking for furniture during the day and you could send them an email about that furniture in the afternoon. That's really a new thing in the world. That was not true. Secondly, you can send someone an email and follow up with a postcard because you know where they live. So I've told this story a number of times, but I'll just say to you guys, this has only backfired on me once, when in the town of Tucson, an ice cream store called the Ice Cream Factory wanted to target every parent, everybody that had kids in the city of Tucson with an email. And we did. And the email said, click here for a free ice cream cone. Or the email actually said, the ice cream factory is opening, a week from Friday. We want you to come in and enjoy a free ice cream cone on us. Click here for your free ice cream cone. And when you click, it took you to a page that said, thank you. We look forward to seeing you. Your free ice cream cone is a postcard for your free ice cream cone is in the mail. Think about that. You get an email from someone you've never heard of. You click on the email and they say they're sending you a postcard. You don't fill out a form. You don't tell them anything about yourself. You don't tell them anything. They know where you live because they had your email address. Many people, when they brought, and the reason he wanted to send a postcard, by the way, is because the postcard did not only offer them a free ice cream cone, it also was a coupon for pints and half gallons and gallons. So the point about this is, when people turned in that postcard, many of them said, this is wonderful, but it's a little creepy too. For those of you who are not using email like this, I just wanted to show you one case study. Excuse me, this is about a theater company in Portland. And they had a really interesting show. It came right around Christmas. The show was won as Best in Show at the Fringe Theatre in Scotland. It's a really odd show. It's a Scottish play about myths and the devil, and how the devil can come into the world on New Year's Eve and bring people into hell. But while he's out chasing people, it's a time where people who are in hell can escape. So this all takes place in Scotland on New Year's Eve, and they decided they actually hold the play in what looks like a bar. So while you're watching the play, you're sitting at tables like you're in a saloon, and they're serving Scottish food, and they're serving Scottish alcohol too, bourbon, etc. But anyways, as all the reviews said, a wild romp through Scottish ballads, karaoke mainstays, and devilish encounters. The point about this is they realized that for New Year's Eve, this play might attract people who were not only interested in high-end theater. It might be people interested in, I don't know, Scottish things, or drinking, or hanging out in a bar, or it's sort of a wild romp, as it said. So who would be interested? People who like performing arts events and theater, tourists, people who like Scottish culture and whiskey. They serve very high-end Scottish whiskeys, by the way. People looking for holiday fun and a special New Year's Eve. Okay, so the first thing was to break down these audiences just like that. Then the second thing is to say, okay, how do we target tourists? How do we target people like Scottish culture? How do we target people who like the performing arts? And the answer was, we used multiple tactics. The first thing is we geofenced other theaters to capture the phone IDs of anyone who attended a theatrical performance in Portland in the month of November and the early part of December leading up to this show. So geofencing, as I'm sure you guys all know, is we can draw an imaginary fence around another theater. If you go into that theater carrying your cell phone, we can capture your cell phone and serve ads to your cell phone. And their thought was, if people are going to other theaters, they're a good candidate for us. So we can geofence other theaters. We also geofence nearby hotels, just hoping to get tourists. We also did contextual and keyword targeting people who were searching for plays, things to do for New Year's Eve, and also, weirdly, people interested in anything having to do with Scottish gifts, Scottish whiskeys. We did them too. And then we thought, okay, how about, and then we're going to do email, but to who? So for that, we brought in Casey and we brought in Cameron, the two guys on our staff, who basically wandered through all the possible audience. And we could target tourists, we can target people staying in hotels. We targeted tourists with our banner ads, staying in hotels, people searching for things to do, looking at sites with event calendars, searching bars or restaurants. We targeted theater goers by geofencing other art venues. We also targeted them by people who were searching for things to do, people that were looking at event calendars, searching for bars or restaurants. And then we did email for people that love Scottish stuff, people that had an identifiable interest in Scotland, people that had relatively high incomes and wouldn't mind paying. It was $125 for the least expensive ticket. People that live nearby. So we did geofencing, area hotels, performing arts venues, bars near the theater. Keyword and contextual, we did things to do, event calendars and alt weeklies, theater and bar sites. We targeted people looking for Scottish stuff. And for email, we targeted people who had both an interest in theater and had shown an interest in Scotland, who had high incomes, who lived near downtown. And especially if they had, and if they opened the email, we retargeted them with banners. Why did we say both interested in theater and Scotland? Well, it turns out that in Portland, I didn't know this, we have a sizable number of people who travel to Scotland, buy Scottish goods, and consume Scottish cultural products. So we had enough of them that we could cross-reference those people with household incomes above $125,000. Household incomes, we finally ended up with consumers with household incomes above $75,000, interest in performing arts, and people had an interest in Scotland. And I mention all this because I wanted to show you what happens when you do all of these things together. We delivered, all told, counting the impressions and email and everything else, 561,000 impressions. That's a lot. We generated 1,932 clicks on either banners or email. We actually had a little video clip, and we had only a video clip. We didn't run audio on this one. So, and the click-through rate was 0.34. The average click-through rate on many banner campaigns is 0.07. So 0.34 means that our targeting was pretty good. The thing I really wanted to show you is this. Geofencing, we delivered 216,000 impressions. We had a 0.1% click-through rate. We got 242 clicks. But geofencing also gives us something else. If I've captured your phone at this performing arts theater, I can also draw a conversion fence around our theater, the theater we want them to go to. And we can count how many phones that we captured somewhere else are actually now sitting in this theater watching this play. And we delivered 106 people that we know for sure their phone is sitting in the theater. That's 106 people. So 106 people times $125 is, I don't know, what is that? $13,000? I don't need to do the math right now, but they made very good results on that one tactic. Keywords, we only had a 0.05% click-through rate, 62 clicks. Those 53 weighted actions were not geo-weighted actions. Those were not people that went to the theater. They were people who, after having seen our ad, later visited the site, whether they got there through Google search or some other way. But this is 53 people who came back a second time. On contextual, we had 0.06 click-through rate, the worst of the lot. I'm sorry, not quite the worst. Yeah, the worst, it was a little better than keywords, but 55 clicks, but 250 weighted actions. A lot of people who we served an ad to, these 79,000 ads, 250 people of them came back to the site a second time later, not driven by a click or directly from an ad. But look at email. We delivered 50,000 and 50,000. We delivered it twice. We had 10,000 people open the email, but we had 1,573 people click. Now look at this. This is 242, 62, 55, 1,573, a 15% click-through rate. So out of all the things that we did, 42% of the people came from theater goers and local drinkers, 35 came from local geofences, from hotels, 13 from hotel geofences, 11% from drinkers and people interested in drinking in Scotland. So out of all the tactics, the very best one was targeting local theater goers and local drinkers, people interested in bars. Again, this is for New Year's Eve or the time around New Year's Eve. But look at the clicks. 13% of our clicks came from geofencing, 3% came from keywords, 3% from contextual, and 81% came from email. I'm showing you this just to say that in every experiment we look at across the country, here's what we have found. In general, on email, we always get a 1% click-through rate, which means if you run 50,000 emails, you're going to get at least 500 people visit your website next week. How many other tactics do we have that can deliver 500 people to their website next week? And the 1% is so solid, we actually offer it as a guarantee. But there are other kinds of, we also had, so that led to 1,932 website visits, 409 weighted actions, 106 people that were actually in the theater. Okay, there are other kinds of email though, other than rented lists. And I, leave from this PowerPoint for a second and show you some of those. Here's an amazing thing about Garden and Gun. sorry. Here's Garden and Guns magazine today. You know, the big story is a tour of Bermuda's wild side. Good article. What do they do with that? They devote a whole section of their fields guide to garden to Bermuda. They send out an email to their list that is entirely sponsored content about Bermuda. So think about what they've done. Okay, so they have a story. Now they sell a sponsored content version of that story and they run it to their email audience. Then they build a whole section of their store that's about Bermuda in their field guide. And then, oh, I just want to show you this also. The point about this, so as when Garden and Gun thinks about their business, here's how they think about it. It should all be marketed everywhere. So here you go. Here's the sponsored email about Bermuda. They also, here's Field Shop's best and brightest. They send out a shopping piece about their store, right? So the point about that is if you have someone in the store and they're there for free and you're selling their items and you've uploaded them to Google and you've uploaded them to Facebook, now you can on a regular basis say, by the way, we send out this shopping email to our customers where we only put in a small number of items per week. Would you like to be one of those? Now it's an upsell. Now you're upselling marketing out of the store into your email list. Our email lists do not have to be just news. Why aren't we selling e-commerce too?
So Greg, here I would say maybe we just stop only in the interest of time because I don't want to miss the last idea.
Good idea.
And I would also say, I think that some of the people on the call are probably maybe segmenting their emails in different ways, maybe some other topics besides, a main, daily headline or weekly headline type email. But I guess my question would be, what could we tell them, like how to monetize something like that?
One of my favorite models came from Plano, Texas, where in Plano, Texas, they started an email called Eat, Shop, Play. And they would write sponsored content stories. And the stories are really simple. Here's a picture of a restaurant and under it, pictures of 3 plates of food. And then a little tiny story next to it. And they just say, a great place in Plano to eat. Here are great places to eat. Here are 3 of them. And they charged $300 to be in that email. They also put Eat, Shop, Play as a story on their website. So it was sponsored content on their website that they also sent out as an email. But think about that. 3 stories at $300 each is $900. That's for Eat. Then they did 3 events, and then they did 3. It was Eat, Shop, Play. So they did shopping, events, and restaurants. That's $900 times 3. Here's $2,700 a week on the email. And you're also putting them on your website. You have the sponsored content. This is unbelievably easy to create, and it's really easy to sell. And as we all know on this, I mean, is there a single newspaper in the world that has not had an advertiser say this to them? The only dang story you guys have ever written that was any good was the one you wrote about me. I mean, they all want to have us write stories about them, and they all think that that's the best thing we do. So turn it into a business and have email be the driver. I will also say that in some markets, they didn't have enough audience to do this, and you can actually use rented lists for this. Think about this. There are 30,000 people in their surrounding area. You can rent a list that hits every single person that lives in your surrounding area and just send out a list that's about Eat, Shop, Play. The list will cost you $300, but you're making $2,700. Don't wait until you have a list to do this idea. Rent a list and go after it.
Not only that, but then they can hopefully turn around some more visitors and engagement to their own news properties in while they're doing it, hopefully.
Well, and the other thing is on the shopping side, maybe we'll drive it to the store and they'll sell a product and they get 15%. I mean, it's a virtuous. The point about these two ideas is, let's think about how to get reader revenue in ways that are other than subscriptions, and let's figure out how to get money from advertisers that is not simply selling them an ad adjacent to content. It's other kinds of products. Cameron, did you have a thought there? Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I guess we are running a little short of time, so let me zip into this next idea if that's okay. Are we okay? Any other questions?
Does anyone have anything else at this point? We'll save a few minutes
was-
at the end to go back.
I was just wondering on the e-shop plate, would you just send that out to your internal email list that you have for like subscribers?
You could, but as I was saying, you could also rent a list and just blanket people in your community.
Okay.
I mean, I will tell you that we're working with the paper in Montana that's doing this next week. They have a list of about 60,000 people who are in their service area. They just rented that list and they're just blasting out to them, and they're hoping that people are going to sign up, and so that after renting a list a few times, they will be building a list that they own. But it doesn't have to be just your news list. It could be that people that are interested in shopping and restaurant information are different than the people interested in your news list.
Right. And you want to use that as part of your sales pitch, telling them how many emails are going out to the local area too, probably.
Well, that's right. And here's the thing is, if you can guarantee it's 50,000, 50,000 local people is 50,000 local people. It doesn't have to be people who subscribe.
Also, every link from that rented list, the newsletter, every link that goes to the website, you're greeted with a pop-up saying subscribe to this newsletter. So that's another way that they use the rented list to convert into organic subscribers.
Interesting. Cool.
Is that newspaper you're speaking of, are they doing that for their own promotion, Greg, or are they doing that for a topic?
They're a weekly, and they're just trying to build interest in people subscribing to their newsletter.
Okay, but is it a physical publication or a
Oh, I'm sorry. No. They also would like to have you. Weirdly, they're a free weekly. They're in a big tourist market. So kind of like Aspen and other markets, it's hard to sell people annual subscriptions when they are only there 3 months out of the year. So they're a free distribution weekly.
Okay, but they're doing it for their own promotion, which I just thought, that's something that some of the people on the call might consider, the cost of doing something that to the benefit of what they could gain by building those lists.
Sure. Okay, we're going to zip into this third one. I'm sorry I ran long on that one, but this will be shorter. So this is an idea from the Santa Fe New Mexican, and I'm just totally enamored with this idea. Imagine this. Santa Fe is a destination, as we all know. People like to go there just because it's Santa Fe and it's a cool place to hang out. So they have all these events, national events that happen in Santa Fe, not because they have any connection to Santa Fe, but just people think they can invite people to come. So one of them is called Chef-tacular, which is a cooking event. And it goes over 3 or 4 days, and it involves a lot of chefs from the Food Network. So as an example, Bobby Flay was supposed to speak, and it was supposed to be, again, over a weekend. Started actually on Thursday and went through Sunday. So because of COVID, they decided to cancel. Well, this is actually a big moneymaker for the newspaper who had always been a sponsor of this, and they didn't want them to cancel. So they said, no, don't cancel. Let's do this remotely. And people thought, well, wait a second. You pay $160 a day to go into the Civic Center and see these chefs. You're watching Bobby Flay cook. You're talking to sommeliers. You're talking to people in the beef industry. I mean, it's an event. How does this work if it's not an event? And the answer is, in Henry's case, he said, well, we're just going to make an event. And here's what they thought of. For all these chefs, they had a local grocery store who agreed to create a package of the ingredients of the meal the chef was going to cook. So you're going to cook with Bobby Flay. Bob, you can cook along with Bobby Flay at home using exactly the same ingredients that Bobby Flay is using in front of you. It can be delivered to you locally by this local grocery store. And so for a couple of weeks before this event, they advertised who the chefs were and that you could buy it. So here you are sitting at home. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, suddenly the homepage of the Santa Fe New Mexican is completely altered. And they drop down the content and there's a big video window and Bobby Flay is cooking for you on the Santa Fe New Mexican site on a Friday. And you can cook along with him at home until the meal is done. And then Bobby says, and now if you've paid, if you're a member of Chef-tacular, I'll see you in the chat room. And suddenly you're in a paid Zoom meeting. They use a platform called Hopin, where now you're directly speaking to Bobby Flay about the meal that you and he have just cooked together. And they did this with other chefs as well. So that worked really well. A person watching it is an internationally famous flamenco dancer. And she said, I'd like to do this too. I don't get to travel the world. I'm not doing all my, could I borrow this space, this big video panel on the homepage of the Santa Fe New Mexican? Can I borrow it and give a class and see if people will take classes from me online? They said, sure. So how does this look? Here's the Santa Fe New Mexican. And if they have an event, they change it. They drop the Santa Fe New Mexican normal content down and they put in this video window. The Lannan Foundation sponsors the largest James Joyce festival in the world in Santa Fe. But none of these great James Joyce scholars are coming to Santa Fe because of COVID. So instead, they did the entire event online, live, and the Santa Fe New Mexican is the place that you're doing it. What he realized is the Santa Fe New Mexican, just like your paper, in most markets, we have the largest audience in town. And there are lots of nonprofits and other people who would like to have that audience. And you can sell it. And I'll just tell you, he started doing this in about the middle of July. When I spoke to Henry at the Santa Fe New Mexican, by August, he had sold 14 of these events. And here's what he charges, $2,500 a day. And so this is the Bloomsday. This is the event we just looked at. He uses social media to get the message out. This is the flamenco dancer. While you are watching her, he put a little streaming feed that said, visit her site, etc. So you could sign up. There's also a little ad underneath it. And again, it would look like this, but this ad was about the flamenco dancer. So you surround it. So here's the wild part. What incredibly complicated technology do you need for this video window? You do this. You go to Facebook and you stream a video on Facebook. Facebook will give you an embed code. You take that code and you drop it on your website. You don't need any equipment, nothing fancy, nothing special. And you can film this with whatever they want to film it with. Facebook will take feeds from phones. Anyway, they did email marketing. The whole point of this idea is to leverage the strength of the paper, the audience of the paper, to the advertiser's advantage. You advertise, and so you sell the client for $2,500. They get a package. You're going to send out email. You're going to send out something on Facebook. You're going to run ads around the piece as it is. But if at the Bend Bulletin, they have a local music venue called the Les Schwab Amphitheater, and they're now going to turn this into the Les Schwab Bend Bulletin Amphitheater, and local bands are going to play on weekends on the Bend Bulletin site. Why not? The point is, Henry's pitch is, I've got 150,000 people visiting my site. How many do you have visiting your site? If you're a small nonprofit group, this is a way to get the audience that they would have a hard time getting any other way. That's that whole idea.
And this is really good because if you don't know, if your newspaper has a Facebook page, you can go live on that Facebook page, at any point and have a presentation, but you can also take a Zoom meeting like we're doing with multiple speakers and I could have made this go live on our Facebook
Okay.
page, and then you
And,
take
and on your website.
yeah, and on our, and then we would have, you could take the embed code for the whole player, as Greg said, and put it anywhere on your website, you know, at that, and that's how you, and basically it involves having a Zoom account and a Facebook page, basically.
I think what Henry has found is that Pilates instructors, yoga instructors, craftspeople, he's even had realtors who wanted to give a house tour. All kinds of people would like to rent this space. Many of them have videos.
Did anyone have any questions about anything we covered, any of the technology of how you get there, about costs or anything? We can open it up.
Let me just say there are lots of vendors who do what we do. I mean, none of this stuff is unique to us, but if you have questions about these things, I'm happy to, please feel free to call myself or Cameron. We're happy to walk you through how to do any of this.
Thank you. I think these are some great ideas, Greg. You've got some awesome ideas.
And
The
that's
challenge
how
that we have here at our paper is our salespeople are very hesitant about selling digital. They're just not informed on the proper ways to sell it, and the lingo and all of these things. I mean, I've even learned some new terminologies just listening to you in the last hour. What's the best way to train your sales team on how to sell these things? Or
It's really hard because what you're actually saying is you've identified the hardest problem, which is training our reps is difficulty one, but the real difficulty is training our customers. And that means that our reps have to be good enough to be an instructor, because many times our customers, they don't want to be sold a solution to a problem they don't know that they have. I mean, and they're not, I think many of our customers are pretty far behind on what's possible. So it is a challenge. In our case, we try to hold trainings, twice a month with all of our people. And this sounds dumb, but it has to be iterative. I mean, you have to keep repeating the same. I mean, you have to keep repeating them until people feel comfortable. But there is one secret, and that's this. When you run a campaign, the worst moment for the sales rep happens when the campaign ends and they've got to go to their customer and explain what happened. And if what they get is a data dump of technology, of data that they don't understand, and neither does the customer, that's completely unsatisfying to everybody. So one thing you have to work on is doing reporting in English. I mean, like writing it in words, and because a data dump is, it leads to buyer's remorse, right? They're not sure what it's kind of like in the old days when we used to report hits and they didn't mean anything. Our customers now suspect a lot of what we report doesn't mean anything. So you have to tell them what means something and why it means something, or they're not happy. So partly it's the solution and partly it's the reporting. And for sales reps, here's what I have found. It sounds crazy, but here's a trick I use. I give each rep that has done anything good, whatever, pick something, anything they've done well. They made 3 prospecting calls. Great, you win. You win $600 of a free digital ad campaign. Pick your favorite customer and go give it to them for free. Go give it to them. It's like, so many reps who are unwilling to sell are willing to give something free to their best customer. And so then you're engaging that rep in, okay, let's talk about what this process is. Let's talk about what you should sell this customer, walk them through each step so that they serve that customer well. And then at the end, make sure the reporting is beautiful. And so that because after the rep has won, then they have an aha moment, and the anxiety about, I don't want to start, is very different if they feel good about what happened once, right? In other words, if you don't do that, then here's what's going to happen instead. 2 of your reps are going to sell this well, and the rest of them will take years. I mean, the curve will be 2 early adopters and other never adopters, and that's a problem. You have to find a way to get them engaged, even if you have to even if it costs you money. I mean, even if you can't let anybody sit on the sideline and say, the worst thing I hear all the time is, oh yeah, I've talked to all my customers, none of them are interested. You think, yeah, what did you say to them exactly? And what did they say to you exactly?
Okay, good tip, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll also say on that point, with all the reps I've worked with, and we've been training them on different digital services. There are so many digital services, from geofencing and banner campaigns, native articles, email campaigns. It's so much to take in. I recall learning that stuff myself, and it just takes a lot of time. What we have sometimes found is focusing on training them about email campaigns, showing them how email campaigns work. They get comfortable with that. They can sell a lot of email campaigns. We don't have to teach them the whole range. It's great if, maybe we can start them on one kind of product, one sort of digital service, and they get really into it. They see that the customers are, asking for this. And then, like Greg said, they've kind of got the taste, they're ready to learn more. But sometimes, as much as it would be great to teach them all the options, let's focus on one and show them how effective it is.
Yeah, get a couple of success stories under their belt and before you send them out.
It's really the only way to do it. And it's, what's gratifying though is when they find customers. So, here's the dilemma we have. If some of the best digital customers may not be our print newspaper customers, and we don't have the bandwidth or the people to call on those people, right? I mean, so what we're always looking for is what's the right product that's an extension of what we're already doing with the customers we've already got. And we should do that first. But after we do that, then you need to think about who else could we bring in the organization who might go after people that we don't have. And I say that just to say, local community colleges, municipalities, and all that stuff, they're all spending $100,000, $150,000 a year on advertising and not much of it with us. So we should go get that money. And my standard line is, I think that one of the worst things that happened to the newspaper industry were the folks at the Houston Chronicle and the Dallas Morning News, both of whom I admire terrifically. But when I was at Lee, here was their pitch. Out of every $10 the advertiser spends, $4 is spent on print and $6 is spent on something else. How can we get a bigger share of our customer? How can we go get that other $6? And we spent a decade toiling on how we could come up with enough services that we could chase that other $6. And I think that it blinded me to something that's also as important, maybe even more important, which is not share of customer. What if we have 100% share of only 2 customers? I mean, we need a share of our community. We need to get as many businesses in our community involved with our paper at whatever level they're comfortable with is right for them. And if they're not print customers, that doesn't mean we should say no. It's not only about leveraging our print customers more, it's about expanding the total number of people we touch. Because I think we have to go both ways, in other words. I hope that's what we're talking about, is trying to find the tools that'll help us do that. That's it.
So I will be sending out a follow-up. I'll put this video on YouTube, and I will send Greg's contact information as well if people want to reach out to him directly with any questions. He's always my go-to when something new comes up that I don't understand. My most recent one, Alexa skills, and Greg knew exactly what I was talking about and told me what to do with it.
Good. Well, no, that's right. And, I try to attend every NENPA event. And if I don't know about even the virtual ones, but I'm happy to help. I've got lots of friends at the NENPA group, and I'm happy to help if I can.